Welcome to the Come Up Starter Kit, guys. My name is Shanker and I have a wonderful guest today, Stephanie Asher, who is Geelong's Mayor. She is also an executive consultant and a best-selling author. Now, in this episode, we are going to deep dive into Stephanie's career, and this is all about if you are looking to become a mayor. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for jumping on board.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Shanker.
Wonderful. Now, I'm going to give you a quick curly question. If you could sum your life up in 60 seconds or less, that would be amazing.
Okay, this is a tricky one. Grew up in the leafy eastern suburbs of Melbourne, in North Balwyn and Camberwell. Went to school in Camberwell at a girls' school. Did my degree at Monash University, then headed off overseas, having worked in a variety of jobs while at uni. Came back from England, struggled to get a job because it was the early 90s, so there was a recession going on. Ended up landing a job in a PR consultancy through a family friend. Took to it like a duck to water, loved that work, and from there I set up my own business at 27 and basically I've just grown it from there.
Okay, and now for people that are looking to become a mayor, what was your journey like?
The journey can probably best be described as a meandering journey. The opportunity first came up in 2012 when there was a direct election for mayor in Geelong, similar to Melbourne for the first time. It was a really good job, it was a well-paid job, it actually suited what I was qualified to do. PR consulting meant I could run a campaign. I was also qualified as a CEO of a consultancy to do the actual strategic part as well. So I put my hat into the ring. Long story short, came second. That first mayor resigned after 10 months, I think it was. Okay. So the opportunity came up again. While the voters sort of thought I was a fair shoo-in, I had Darren Lyons as a fellow candidate. And he ran an excellent campaign. I get along very well with Darren, and I came second again, so 45% to 55% in the final count. So I'd come a bit closer the second time, and then the council got sacked and was put into administration a couple of years later, and then the opportunity came up again when the council elections started in 2017, but no direct election anymore, and the job paid half. So I was essentially just one of 11 councillors, and then I was voted in as mayor in 2019 and once again 2020.
Okay, so resilience is the answer.
Yes, resilience. Keep trying, never give up.
Okay, good. Now in the next segment, what we're going to do is sit down with Stephanie and pick her brains and what it takes to actually become a mayor.
Great.
Now, Stephanie, you have had an interesting career as well as a business journey. What was your career and career journey before actually becoming a mayor?
Started out as a public relations consultant. I didn't know whether I wanted to do publishing, personnel or public relations coming out of university. Did public relations first, was then a publishing manager at a book consultant, a book publishing outfit for a little while, and then decided to launch out on my own and did a bit of a blend of both. So I've had a career in corporate, mostly in multinationals at BHP. I was a senior manager at BHP. I've worked with Aussie Post and South 32, Newcrest Mining. Currently still do run my own management consultancy. The mayoral role is actually a part-time role, so I blend both. Obviously don't work quite as many hours as I did used to. But I essentially do sustainability reporting and annual reporting. So run big annual reporting programs for ASX listed organisations.
So how do you find the time to be a mayor and also run your own business?
Excellent time management skills, which is actually, as a consultant, that's what I'm used to doing. I'm used to billing by the hour, so every 15 minutes is accountable. So yeah, it comes very naturally to me to jump from one thing to another and to be accountable every 15 minutes.
Okay, very good. What were the particular roles that you had before actually becoming a mayor, and which of those roles impacted your life and made you who you are?
Corporate communications involves wearing many hats. So public relations, consulting, corporate communications in a big organisation involves the ability to be able to sell your message, to be able to network effectively, to be able to negotiate, to communicate with all types of different stakeholders. So all of those skills are put to really good use as the mayor.
Okay, all right, brilliant. And what was the moment that clicked in your mind where you're actually like, I want to become a mayor?
When the direct election opportunity came up, I was sitting with a group of leaders for Geelong graduates, and we were all discussing the opportunity that had arisen in Geelong for Geelong, and I was quite surprised that nobody put their hand up. And I was very compelled at that point. I thought, this is what we've been learning about and studying for, so this is exactly the sort of opportunity that we should be taking, and I took the plunge.
Okay, all right. And I have no idea what it's like to become a mayor or even actually how to get to becoming a mayor. For people that are also in the same boat as well, is it just like applying for a role, or how do you actually become a mayor?
Okay, except for the City of Melbourne, which is a direct election, Geelong no longer is a direct election. It's like every other council in Victoria where the council group, the elected councillors choose the mayor from within that group. So to become a mayor, you first have to become a councillor, which means you do apply every 4 years. They have council elections. You put in a nomination form. There's quite a process to go through, which you look up the Victorian Electoral Commission, the VEC website, and it will show you exactly what you need to do. They have candidate packs, and you have to essentially run a campaign and get as many votes as you can. Once you are elected as a councillor, which is not easy, people are very good. Once you do become a councillor, then you have to somehow convince your colleagues to vote you in as mayor.
Right. So what does it mean by direct election?
That there is a separate role and a separate process for the mayor as against the other councillors.
Okay.
So there's a separate election just for the mayor as to other councillors. So the Lord Mayor of Melbourne, Sally Capp, she ran a campaign to be the mayor. All the other councillors ran councillor campaigns.
Okay.
And that's what we did have in Geelong for 2012 and then 2013, but they've since scrapped it.
Okay.
So now we're back to just the council election, and then the mayor gets selected by the other councillors from the group.
Right.
So you're basically the first among equals. You have a couple more powers than the other councillors, but not many.
Right.
It's essentially the spokesperson. So you have a casting vote if there's a tie in the chamber of votes. You get to decide who goes on which committees, and you are part of the recruitment process for the CEOs. Other than those three things, you have no more power than the other councillors.
Right, okay. And what were some of the setbacks during your journey? Obviously, it took you 3 times to get to mayor.
Yep.
So what were some of the challenges that took you to actually becoming a mayor?
Interestingly, a lot of this will be around unconscious bias, and I think some of it is regional parochialism. I'm from Melbourne originally, so I wasn't known at all in Geelong, so that was a barrier because I wasn't a familiar name.
Right.
It actually worked as an advantage in the first election because preferencing is all about being underestimated.
Right.
The less people think of you, the higher they put you in their preferencing. So I played that to my advantage because I was little known. So I got a lot of second being put 2 on people's tickets. Okay. So I got quite a lot of votes and I came second. The second time around, because I was well known, people put me last because they knew that I was quite a threat. So that's an interesting lesson that you learn in politics. Quite a lot of hostility as a newcomer to a regional town, a fair bit of sexism. I did get ignored in the media. A great example is if I was a male, I probably would have been described in the newspaper as a successful business person, sporty and fit, well connected, media savvy, blah, blah, blah. I was described as a very young Ocean Grove mum. I was in my 40s. I wasn't even young. So it was quite bizarre. They completely ignored any of my executive history, any of my consultancy business, any of my other talents, and just focused on the fact that I was a mum.
So how do you overcome things like that where there is sexism in place? How do you make sure that you are still striving to get the best result even when you have these type of setbacks?
Yeah, I think perseverance is number 1, sense of humour. Number 2, you have to have a sense of humour and stay connected to what really is important, because it can be really easy to get caught up in what is actually quite petty. And if you can step above that and just think, no, I'm here for a purpose, and actually focus on what it is that you're trying to do without getting caught up in negativity or feeling bad about yourself, then that's the main thing. Just keep getting up, keep coming back.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's a great tip, because a lot of people will receive these type of setbacks and not continue to pursue their dreams or what they want to actually achieve.
Yep.
Is there any other sort of tips that you could provide people that are facing that? Because that's, again, we're in a economy where things are going down south and people are unable to get jobs as well.
Yep.
You know, what are other sort of tips that you would provide people that are maybe struggling to just get across the line?
Yep, certainly looking for work, it's about who you know. It still is, I see it all the time. You can be the best qualified candidate for anything, but if you don't have the right connection at the right time, it is really tricky. So network, get to know people, be nice. Just be nice to everybody all the time. Even though it can be challenging sometimes, I always try and say to my kids, be nice to yourself and about other people. So be persistent, be pleasant, know that it's a very long play. People don't change jobs in some places. Some people hang on to jobs for 30, 40 years. So it's worth always leaving a good impression and essentially just keep going, keep going. Read Sue Alberti's biography, which I wrote.
Yeah.
It's all about not giving up. This woman has faced so much tragedy in her life. She lost her only child who died in her arms on an aeroplane on the way back to Australia. Her husband was killed by a truck in a hit and run accident.
Right.
She's had every manner of tragedy you can imagine, and she is still smiling, still pushing through, still doing things for the community, and her motto is never, never give up. And that she was inspiring to me. It was very validating to meet Sue and actually write that book.
That's amazing. What are considerations people need to be aware of if they are striving to be a mayor, and what are some things that you were unaware of when you started?
I think the idea of ensuring that you don't underestimate other people when they're campaigning. People are pretty good. We've got a bit of a joke in our family about doing fun runs, and it doesn't matter how good a runner you are, somehow the person in the chicken suit ends up beating you, or people who just don't look as though they should be winning do better than you. People generally are really good, and underestimating people, I think, is the gravest danger.
Okay.
Probably also understanding that it's about recognition, so be memorable. Writing letters to the editor, getting your name out there if you want to have any sort of career in public life. It's really good to have some recognition value. Get involved in your community, join your community association, particularly young people. It seems to be a demographic that is, 60 plus, that is involved in volunteering community associations. And when young people come along, they really stand out and they're very memorable, and we need the input from all types of people and all ages. So join in your communities, join clubs, network, always be nice, write letters to the editor so people recognise your name. Put time and effort into everything that you do. So, just persist.
Okay, very good. What is the process of actually running a campaign?
That's a really good question. There is a handbook. They usually put out a candidate's handbook to give you the processes. Right. But essentially, you need to say yes to any invitations to events and forums. They will get a group of candidates in front of the community and they will ask you questions. Okay. That can be quite daunting because you think you don't know the answers, but you're not expected to know answers. You're just expected to be yourself. And if you don't know, people just want to hear you say, I actually don't know, but I would think that maybe blah, 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 because they want to see the human. And everybody listening to a speaker wants that speaker to succeed. Right. So if you remember that, so the campaign is really about answering questions via email, attending forums, answering phone calls for the few people that ring you, putting posters up, essentially just being out in your community. And then on it's a postal election, the council elections, making sure that your name, when people see your name on the kitchen table, that they know, oh, I know that face and that name, I've heard of him or her, tick, and put you in as number one. So. Okay,
and for people wanting to know what a day looks like as a mayor, what does that look like?
Meetings and more meetings, unfortunately. Right. Meetings, briefings, meetings with the community, which is the number one priority for councillors, is to meet with their community and stay connected because we're essentially community representatives. Yes. But also meetings with the staff to understand what projects are going on. I have a lot of meetings with the CEO and the various directors. External meetings, people wanting to present to the mayor and councillors around what their operations are doing and their interest in the city of Greater Geelong. And media, a lot of media work, so answering media inquiries, doing photos with the community to make sure that we promote activities and things that we're doing. So it's essentially back-to-back meetings. So you need to have that flexibility to move from, this particular process into, it might be a budget briefing or into a community meeting. You move from one thing to another. So it's really interesting. Like no day is the same.
Okay, wonderful. And what is the best aspect and what is the hardest aspect of being
the hardest aspect is absolutely finding the time to do it all. Managing time is something that is really important, but there is just so much to do. So some things you do delegate, obviously, but you really do want to be involved with everything. And the best thing is the people that I work with and the people that I work for. Absolutely.
Right, okay. And finally, what is the best advice that you could pass on to someone that is looking to follow your footsteps and become a mayor?
Okay, get involved in your community, number one. So join in local community activities, local community associations, clubs, whether that's a hobby or a sport, or if you've got children, if it's the children's activities, be involved in your community, get to know people, be interested in what the issues are, read your local papers, write letters to the editor. It's a really simple one, but it's something that I always say to people because The newspapers like to hear from the community. It's quite easy to get a run with a letter to the editor. As a PR, it's not necessarily easy to get a run with other stories, but letters, they really do like to print them. And I know that I read the letters and you get to know the names and you get to know what that person thinks. So that's how to build your profile, is just be really persistent and make them good letters. Like sweat it. Make sure that you spell things correctly. Make sure that your grammars are correct and appropriate. Make sure that your messages are positive, those sorts of things. So be a good letter writer is probably number 2. And as I said before, be nice to everybody from all sides. No party politics. Just ignore the hostility, rise above it, and just be pleasant.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Now, in the next segment, what we're going to do is get Stephanie to teach us her top 3 tips if you are looking to become a mayor.
I'm Stephanie Asher, the Mayor of the City of Greater Geelong, and I'm here to share with you my top 3 tips if you're interested in becoming a mayor. At the appropriate time, which is every 4 years when the council elections run, and the next ones will be at the end of 2024. So go to the VEC website, they produce a candidate's handbook which will spell out exactly what you need to do from a process point of view, and you can learn everything that is involved. And that is with building your profile. So make sure that you're known, join some community associations, join some community events, pay attention to what people in your community are thinking, feeling and saying, and get your name out there. Make sure that you're memorable. So that's probably number 2, is the most important for when the campaign comes around, is having your profile and your brand up and ready. When the time comes, the VLGA put on training. The MAV, the Municipal Association of Victoria, will also be able to advise. Make sure that you find out exactly what to expect and what the role entails. So the 3 things: go to the VEC website once the elections come around for the handbook. Secondly, start now, get your brand and your profile into play. And thirdly, when the time comes, get the training so that you know what to expect. And good luck.
Now, when it comes to applying for a job, a lot of candidates feel that they are being rejected and they are not getting anywhere with their resume. Now, in these tips, I'm going to teach you some follow-up methods that you need to be implementing when it comes to your job search strategy. Tip number 1, now once you have submitted your application to a job, you want to wait 1 or 1.5 weeks to then give a call to the organisation that you've applied for. And what you can use is saying this: hey, I've actually applied for a role and I just wanted to find out what my status of my application was. Now, making sure that you are following up using the telephone is a really good way of showing initiative that you are very interested in that role. Tip number 2, what you want to make sure is, if for example that you may be a little shy in terms of picking up the phone, what you can do is find at the end of the job description there should always be a name of the recruiter or the hiring manager of that job application. So what you can do is you can search them up on LinkedIn and try and add them on LinkedIn and shoot them an email finding out about your application as well. Now, if you have a lot of confidence and you want to make sure that you are getting that job, what you can do is actually go to that organisation. So whether it is the actual company itself or the recruitment agency, you can actually go down there and actually speak to reception and find out, I would like to know about my application on my job. And if not, if I could speak to a potential recruiter that I could liaise with to try and help enhance with my job search. These are my top 3 tips. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Come Up Starter Kit and speaking with Stephanie Asher, who is Geelong's Mayor. In the next episode, we are going to be speaking with the lovely Catriona Rowntree if you are looking for a career in media. We'll catch you on the next one.